Yeah, welcome to the Paul, Mark and the Tech Guys show, radio show here on 98.9 Northwest FM. Let me bring the guys into the room here tonight. We're back in 98.9. We're back in the chair, in the hot seat this evening. We've got a major show. Let me tell you, I've got the great man, Mark Watt, here with us. And also our tech guy has disappeared from the screen, but he's around there, Julio. And we've got.
Hey, the good news about tonight, Paul, is we've got about 5 or 6 hot seats. They're all hot tonight, and we're going to get stuck into it tonight because we're all fired up tonight about the election. And this is really the precursor. Tonight's going to could decide the election, actually, Paul.
I think it's going to be pretty hectic. I think if you're listening here on 98.9, it's great having you. Jump on the Facebook at Paul Mark and the Tech Guy, also at Community Heart, because you're going to gauge what's going to happen this weekend. Is that right? What's going to happen this weekend?
Right,
I
can see
Tully's excited. What?
Yeah.
What is it?
We want people's questions, mate. We've got to ask questions in the post. We want their questions.
Exactly.
These guys are going to answer any question you've got. Anything.
Exactly right, guys. And a big thanks, Mark. Great to have you back here for 2025 season. Discussion between three blokes in podcast form, radio show talking everything community, sports, current and controversial news, of course, and a little bit of tech. I don't know if we've got time for tech. We've got a lot of time for the election. So, Marcus, without all, we've got a wonderful guest tonight, the election special for 2025, the very awesome Tully Smith. Milton Wild's coming on shortly, and Councillor Oscar Illes with us. Hey, Marcus, take us through what's going on.
Well, look, it's a pretty hot election. There's a lot of big issues, and later in the show, we're going to talk about what the top 7 issues are that are facing this election. The top 7, is it the nuclear power? Is it the petrol prices? What is it? That's what we're going to find out, our top 7. I don't know how we're going to get agreement on the top 7, Paul, but we're going to get it. Now, we want to start with a bit of an independent voice. An independent voice before we go left or right. We want to sort of start. I don't know whether Oscar's in the middle. Who knows where Oscar is? That's why he's independent. We don't know where he is. So, Oscar, over to you, mate. Give us your 2 or 3 4-minute spiel about what are you about this election?
Oh, what am I about? Well, I'm voting Cooter. If I could, I would actually, because I live in obviously the seat of Wills, federal seat of Wills, but Cooter's running in Melbourne. I am running a booth for him on Saturday, so good friends with Cooter, but I hope he gets up. In terms of the issues in that Australians have, and I'm hearing this day in, day out, and today I put up a post on social media in the afternoon. I was actually at a Carlton function at Crown, and I thought, talking to people at that event, everyone's disillusioned. I thought, I'm going to write up a post, and I did, and already this post has had a couple of thousand views, and I just did that this afternoon. But I know voters are disillusioned. They feel lost, and the people I'm talking to are telling me that they're really confused. They're fed up with the same old faces. They're telling me that they've got no trust. They're telling me basically that there's a lot of apathy. They don't really care. A lot of people today said to me that they're probably just going to stick a 0 next to a name and just walk out. A lot of them are saying they're going to engage in a donkey vote. Some are saying, look, they're just going to tick their name off and just walk away. I'm obviously recommending that they don't do that. But the same faces, the same spin, no matter who's in power, the outcomes don't seem to change is what they're saying. People are exhausted with all the ads. I got another text message just now from the Trumpets. At the same time, I received a message just before from the Liberal Party. Got one from Labor. I think we're all over it already, and I know a lot of people have voted. 45% of people have already voted. It feels like we're choosing between only 2 options, Labor and Liberal, and we know that they're who the Liberals are preferencing, and we know who Labor's preferencing. Young people are lost. They're telling me that they've got concerns with housing, cost of living, inequality. Of course, climate's an issue for them. But people want honesty. They don't want slogans. And unfortunately, I think this election in particular has lacked a lot of authenticity. And the 3 debates that I've watched, I haven't walked away going, yeah, that leader was outstanding. I think I shouldn't say this, but I think they're both bad as each other. The elderly feel abandoned. Many older Australians are telling me that they've spent their entire lives contributing to this country, working hard, paying their taxes. And I think we're neglecting the most important people, the most vulnerable people in our country. And they're having issues with costs, aged care failures, isolation of real issues. and they're not being addressed and they're not being listened to. So, I mean, after a lifetime of service, raising families, building communities, paying all their taxes, and many seniors that I speak to are saying that, you know what, they're the quietest voice, but they're not being heard in the room. But cost of living, inflation, housing affordability, healthcare, immigration and population growth, job security and wages, mental health crisis. I mean, the mental health crisis, if we really go into it, there are massive issues when we look around every sector or within the emergency sector, but forget about the hospitals, healthcare and emergency. But there's a lot of, I mean, my daughter currently is almost finishing her psychology master's, and she was telling me how many issues that people are experiencing. But then you got crime and community safety, which is a serious concern. I think what we've done in this country is, I think we haven't addressed the main issues, and we've played politics, and we've done it with people's money, with their hard-earned taxpayer money. And I think people don't trust politicians. And someone said, what about local government? Well, there shouldn't be any politics in local government. There shouldn't be any party politics. Unfortunately, there is in our council. But I reckon the way we're going, if we continue at the rate we're going, I reckon in 25 years' time, Australia's not going to be the Australia we know.
Hey, Oscar, I reckon that's a great summary and given us a great foundation for tonight's show. So thank you very much. But, mate,
awesome.
Who are you going for? I mean, this is a show about the election on Saturday.
That's awesome.
That's a great spiel, mate, but I still don't know. We got Milton here saying we don't want Labor. I mean, have you seen that, guys? What Milton said on the chat there? He doesn't want Labor. But come on, mate, you can't stay in the middle. Who are you going for?
Look, I can tell you now, I'll definitely put the Greens last. I'll put the Socialists second last. I put the Cannabis Party, and I still don't understand why Fiona Patten would have sold her soul and gone to the Cannabis Party. I mean, the thing about the Cannabis Party is they're going around putting up their call flutes on public land, as do the Socialists, as do the Greens. Don't do it as bad, but it's as though they can do whatever they want. But what is the Cannabis Party going to do for my cost of living? What is the Cannabis Party going to help in terms of mental health? Probably going to cause issues in mental health. Crime and community services. What are they going to do for healthcare? How is the Cannabis Party going to help with immigration? How are they going to help with inflation? With the fuel costs, with the rising grocery costs. I mean, seriously.
All right, so Oscar, I got your bottom three. I'm looking for your top five now, mate. We're going down the card. There's 8 places. Give me your top bottom three. What's your top five?
Well, my top five were definitely Labor, Liberal, and I can't remember who I put third. I think it might have been.
Okay, so your number one though. Your number one is Labor. So all right, you're anti-Milton. You're going for Labor.
Look, my issue in this area, in this electorate in particular, is I just don't want the Greens and the Socialists to get any power, because if they do, we know what they're all about. I mean, good old Don Chip, when he first went down the path of establishing a party that was all about the climate, they're not about the climate. Divisive, don't care what anyone says. I think, there'd be 10% of people out there disagreeing with me, but I reckon most people would say all the Greens are is they're nothing but that they're causing division and issues in the community. So the top three parties that I did put down were Labor, Liberal, and also the Family First Party. All
right. We've heard from you, mate, and that's been really appreciated. Now, I don't know whether you call Julio a donkey or not, but he's actually up for election. Now, everyone thinks they're donkeys out there, so they're not going to vote for anyone. But Julio, as a guy this is your first time out there, put your hand up, vote for me, Julio, number one, Julio. What have you got to say for yourself?
Well, Mark, it is my first time, and it is actually my first time in politics, as in looking at what's going on and how it affects us as a candidate. And it's an eye-opening story, to tell you the truth. And Oscar, I give you a hats off to, putting your hand up there and actually going up and talking to people, because especially at a time like now, they're not very happy about what's going on. So it is a very hard opportunity. Myself, ex-military member, pretty much served this country, love this country, enjoy what it stands for, its moral values, its critiques of other people and other things that happen. So that's a beautiful thing to have. And Oscar's right. There has to be a change. And to me, I went family first, because I thought let's divide the party again. Let's divide politics again. Have small parties come back into politics to give a different story and a different outcome instead of having everybody in the same boat, either to Liberal or Labor. And yes, I disagree with Greens as well. So my candidates is for Labor. Is basically not to stand for Labor and not to stand for Liberals, but to stand as with the smaller parties, which is for family first.
But hang on, mate. Paul, what do you think about this, mate? I mean, he's an undercover Liberal, isn't he?
Yeah, good old Julio. Yeah, seems like it. But I'm impressed with the councillor. I'm impressed with the councillor. I think he's framed up, and I'm waiting to hear what Tully's got to say because he's looking very, very keen to give us. His money's worth. So that's going to be cool.
Hang on, we can't let Julio off the line. I mean, Julio, what are you actually committed to? What's he committed to? Give us a commitment here.
Come on, Julio. Commit to something.
Policy-wise?
Yeah, give us your top policy, mate, your top commitment. Here's your chance. Why would I vote for you?
My top commitment is freedom for family, for their economic rights, as in start working for normal people, normal environments, wages. Start not taxing everybody in normal Australia, but have a bit more open to looking at different types of tax solutions. That's what we got at the moment. Education is big for me, so I believe that we've got to start putting money back into schools, back into teachers, back into how we run our country and educational systems. Remove ourselves from the normal at the moment. What's known as the LGBTQ attitude towards education at schools, and getting back to proper education of maths, physics, chemistry, and engineering for later on in life. Remove our money from universities and put that money that we put to universities back into schools. That's basically what I believe in. With the actual housing is basically stop letting international companies buy Australian housing industry here and put it back to the people. Also control our immigration at the moment. It's out of control how many people are living in above the 300,000 threshold. So these things need to be looked at. And that's mostly what I stand for.
That's awesome, mate. Hey,
has he convinced you, Paul? Are you going to vote for him?
Look, I'm listening, but just for a minute there, Marcus, just for our guests who are listening here at 98.9 Northwest FM, Paul, Mark and the Tech Guy, we're back for 2025. It's great. We've got a wonderful panel, and it is the election special for 2025. Let me just tell you, it's coming up this weekend if you didn't know about it, and there's something wrong if you didn't realise there is an election. Coming up also, we're going to do a little bit of music, and we might need to talk footy a little bit later, because I know you're pretty anxious about the Bombers. Lost last weekend there, Marcus. But and I see Tully smiling. So are you a Bombers supporter?
Absolutely, proudly so.
There you go. But we're also going to be talking top 7 issues of the election. So don't go anywhere. I want to encourage our listeners, certainly jump onto Facebook and jump on and comment, because I mean Milton's got a flood of stuff happening here, but we want other people to come on. You guys are our listeners here in the local community radio. Jump onto our Facebook page, Paul Mark and Tech Guy, Community Heart, and put a comment. Councillor Oscar Yildiz is here with us. Tully Smith, Milton Wild, maybe, and the great Julio also, and Marcus.
Now, now, Paul, Milton reckons that Tully's one of my lefty mates, so we better put that message up that he's one of my lefty mates. He is one of my mates. I will declare that Tully's a friend and a fellow Bombers supporter. Just put Milton's message up there, Paul, and so we can see what he's saying.
Julio to do that.
Julio will do that for you. But Tully, over to you, mate. Now, my first question is to ask you about these minor parties. As we're calling you Mr. Albanese tonight, what do you think about these minor parties?
Well, first of all, I think it's pretty important to declare that I am a member of the Australian Labor Party, very, very proudly so. I joined the Labor Party when I was 14 years old, which was the minimal age they let me in. They wouldn't let me in before that. But I am not seeking election. I'm not an endorsed party official or candidate in this election, but I'm obviously a very proud member of the party. So, Mark, I'm very happy to be called one of your lefty mates, although so some of my friends may disagree. I mean, interesting. Milton's comment about me being one of your lefty mates. Given that his party may very well mean that the Labor Party win a seat over the Liberal Party, given that they're actually preferencing Labor over the Liberals in a seat the Liberal Party are going to desperately need to hold on to. So I find that quite curious. We don't want Labor, but yet his preferences may directly elect a Labor person over the Liberal Party. So that's an interesting point from Milton there, and hopefully he can join us to clarify that. Mark, I mean, you know me, you've known me for a long time. You know my family as well. I grew up in a pretty working class family in a pretty working class part of regional Victoria, and I'm now a business owner. I've had a pretty successful career. I was one of the ones that couldn't afford to go to university after high school, as so many regional Australians can't. It isn't just the university fees that get us, but it's the cost of living, it's the cost of transport and all of those things. I'm where I am today because of Labor governments, because of policies passed by previous Labor governments and current Labor governments that are about every Australian having the opportunity to a fair go. And that's why I'm a member of the Labor Party. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone to vote Labor at this election, as I have every other election in my life. You asked about small parties. I'm probably a little bit, it sounds like Oscar the same. I'm a party of government guy. If there was no Labor Party candidate running in a seat that I was in, I'd vote for the Liberal Party. I think that our system works best with a strong government, and to have a strong government, you need a strong opposition. And I would be encouraging everyone at this election to vote for one of the major parties. I'd be saying vote Labor, but I'm saying if you don't, vote Liberal. Vote for a party of government. I generally start with my ballot paper. I'm not always last, but very close to the bottom. I put the Greens, and I work from there to Labor at the top. I agree. I think the Greens are a toxic force in Australian politics. I think they are, if you want inaction on environment, if you want inaction on those issues, vote for the Green Party. They're the reason we haven't taken steps forward on environmental issues in this country. The Greens are the ones that have stopped successive governments, Labor and Liberal governments, passing good progressive environmental policy. It's been the Greens holding it up the whole way through. So I'm a party of government guy. And very, very proudly a member of the Labor Party. And I think that for a fair go at this election, I think there's only one party who's truly trying to address the cost of living. It's the Labor Party. Are they doing everything? Are they doing everything right? Are there things I'd do differently? Absolutely, there are. But I think they are the best shot with this country's got of staying on track and continuing forward. So very much looking forward to a hot contest tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a hot contest because we've got in one corner, we've got Oscar and Tully Smith. In the other corner, we've got Julio on his Pat Malone. But Paul, we don't know where you're sitting, mate. Where are you sitting on this? Are you going you're going to side for Julio, or you're in the Tully Smith Oscar Yildich corner?
Look, I mean, I think everyone's come up and framed up a really good position of where they stand. And if I go back and look at everybody has a fair go, I mean that's what Australia's all about, isn't it? Everyone gets a fair go here. Cost of living, healthcare, mental health. I mean, I love what Oscar was saying earlier. There's a crisis out there. Aged care. Pensioners. I mean, we're forgetting about our mums and dads. See, that's not ethical. That's wrong. It's our mums and dads, the older generation, that aren't being looked after. So, for me, I've been traditionally a Liberal supporter. And no doubt, look, to be honest with you, I'll probably, I'll tick that, or family first or Labor, Liberal, I should say. But, I think at the end of the day, it's about a government's going to come in and make some changes and do the right thing by the people, because, we're all taxpayers, right? We all work hard, give our hard-earned, money out there, and but everyone needs a fair go and be looked after to some. Oh, it's a lucky country, right? Isn't Australia a lucky country? Who we got here? We got Bill Hall on Facebook there, Marcus. Let's bring that up here. Many countries are dropping net zero. So what is the view that we should go back to producing lower cost energy using gas and coal? Bill Hall. That's an interesting comment. Thanks, Bill, for that.
Well, we better get a comment about that from Councillor Oscar. What do you say to Bill? What's your comments to Bill, Oscar?
Can you what was his question again? What's his?
Just bring it
what
up
was he
again,
asking?
Julio, if you don't mind, mate.
Sorry, can you bring it up again, Julio? Many countries are dropping net zero. What is the view that we should go back to producing lower cost energy using gas? Bill, my personal opinion on that one, mate, we've got that much gas. It's not funny. We know what happened in Spain the other day when they had the issue with the power outage. Look, no doubt we've got to lean towards the green energy path, but I think we've got to balance things up. For the state government, for example, to say, "Oh, we're going to get rid of gas. We're going to ensure that all new buildings are only operating on electricity." The grid is not coping. I mean, this summer we got away with it, but if something drastic happened this summer, and we had a pretty long summer, we would have experienced what Spain is experiencing. So I think we still need to continue. I'm not saying coal mining is the only solution. I mean, I know we're being bombarded by the Trumpet party on that one. But I think climate's important, but at what expense? That's the key question. And when you look at the emissions that we're causing in Australia compared to globally, I think we're a minuscule. And I think again, this is what we do in Australia. We over-exaggerate things and make them sound so bad that the world's going to end tomorrow and doom and gloom and the climate's number one. Well, the issues that we've been focusing on, I mean, $500 million wasted on the yes, on the yes/no vote. That was shocking. I think if Albo loses this election, he's going to lose a lot of votes based on that. So I think we need to start thinking about realistically what is hurting the voters at the moment and the ratepayers and the taxpayers of this country. But climate's important, but at what expense? I think we need to continue, in particular with gas, because we've got so much of it. To be selling it for a couple of cents a dollar overseas and not to be using one of our natural resources, I think it's probably not.
Well,
not being
good comments there, Oscar. And we want people to keep making comments. So if you're listening, make a comment, ask a question, say whatever you like. These guys are going to answer you. Julio, I'm sick of paying high gas bills, mate. Well, what's the family's first party going to do about my gas bill? Is it going to come down under if you become the Prime Minister and take charge, or what?
Well, there is a family. I'm not sure about family first plan, but me personally, I'd pretty much be looking at this solar system and the way we got the rebate set up in Australia. That's costing us money, but because if a person is being paid to put money into the grid, then pretty much it means everybody else has to pay more. So every single time someone puts solar on their house, gets the rebate, another person who hasn't got solar on their house has to cop for the cost, taking that cost. I know it sounds like a grand idea having solar panels and all the rest of it, but it comes at a cost. And wind turbines are even worse. Even just with looking at the tons of concrete they need, which is roughly between 600 to 2,000 tons of concrete, just to put a pylon up for wind turbines, it's an expensive venture. And then the infrastructure in Australia, we're not set up for this. Like, we're running on a very over 100-year-old infrastructure, and we want to clear it up in less than 20 years. That's pretty much either impossible, or the amount of money that you need to throw it at is incredible.
Pretty ambitious, huh? Ambitious, eh?
It's very ambitious, yeah.
Hey,
we better introduce Milton the Monster, eh?
We better. Exactly, mate. It's great to have you on, Milton Wild. What happened, mate? You had dinner before you could get on, or you're
mate,
going for your top five?
I don't use iPads, and I had to update it.
Oh, okay.
It's
great.
I had to ask my wife how to do it.
Well, Milton, it's great to have you here. We're on one of your favourite subjects, which is climate. So why don't you start there? What's your party? Just introduce who you are, how we can vote for you, what do you stand for, and just put a bit of climate in there.
A bit of climate. Where do we start with climate? We've been crushed by skyrocketing bills, electricity, housing, groceries. We're being lectured to about climate change or climate targets, and we're struggling to keep our lights on. It's crazy. I don't know about you, Mark. We don't put the heaters on at home because we can't afford the gas bill, and that's just absurd. And this crisis is government made, and it's driven by these reckless net zero. I'm reading this because I had to make some notes for tonight because I'm not up to the same speed as you eloquent politicians up here, including Tully. Net zero policies are being pushed by globalist elites, and the policies are crippling our energy sector and destroying jobs and making life unaffordable. We've got to take control back by ending the net zero madness, which is dragging us into blackouts and economic decline. We've got to unleash our coal, our gas, our nuclear resources for affordable, reliable power and reassess the destructive, or in fact, I'm being polite when I say reassess. We need to get rid of the destructive green subsidies that inflate energy costs while multinationals are the only ones that profit from it. So we've got to cut wasteful government spending and rebuilding economic resilience to Australian industry and workers. Climate is bullshit. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Yes, there's a concern and we need to be mindful of it. We need to be careful of it. But cutting down millions of trees in order to put up solar panels does not work. And it's what's the word? I want contra to green theology, or it should be contra to green theology. That's my rant.
It's a good rant, Milton. It looks like I lost Mark, and both Paul and Mark disappeared off the face of the earth. So it looks like we're all just together just to discuss what's going on between this. So, Tully, what's your input about all this?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think energy is a complicated policy area, and I think that when we talk about energy, the throwaway lines are really easy to make. Skyrocketing electricity bills, it's because of coal, it's because of gas. I think when we look at this debate, gas is a great example of this. Australia is a bulk net exporter of gas. The issue is where the gas shortages are is on the completely opposing coastline to where the gas is primarily produced. So we need to look at our grid and our national infrastructure, and that is the role of a government at the end of the day, to look at the national grid and national infrastructure. And I think there's not enough debate about the issues that are actually impacting energy prices and energy consumption in the country, because the debate keeps being hijacked by easy throwaway lines. And I think this is a complex debate, and we need to have complex conversations around how we address it. I completely agree. Electricity prices are skyrocketing. They're hurting. I mean, we're in exactly that position. People are making decisions around turning the heater on and off. Let alone decisions around what temperature to set the thermostat. And we can't have that. We can't have people sitting in their homes freezing on a winter's night because they're too afraid of what it's going to cost to turn the heater on. That is just an unacceptable situation, especially for a country like Australia that is a bulk exporter in energy creation products. So I completely agree. But I think that the issue is complex, and what we need is a really serious conversation in this country. We need actually the parties of government to come together on this and really have a significant conversation around energy and energy future. The problem that we have, and that any democracy has, is the election cycle argument. The fact of the matter is that to address this problem, these are 10, 20, 30-year solutions. They're not solutions that can be done in a simple election cycle. The mantra, the rhetoric, the throwaway lines don't help this conversation. In fact, they hurt it. What we need to be having is a national conversation around energy, a national conversation around energy pricing, and a national conversation around our grid and infrastructure supporting it.
Well, it sounds like you've got it all covered there, Tully Smith, and the Trumpet Party's thinking about how they're going to respond.
Well, Mark, it is true. We have the national resources and we have the population. The national resources typically are nowhere near where the population centres are, but we can solve these problems. And what we need to do is have a very serious look at our national infrastructure.
Just a point of view about that. Do you think that the way that the politics is actually taking on this actual problem, which is an infrastructure engineering problem, together with a lot of logistics involved, is that the politicians are actually listening and paying attention to experts in logistics control, engineering control measures, and what's actually happening with that, where things are? Because it seems to me that for a very long time since this problem started, that both parties seem to be fighting over how to make the other one hurt instead of looking, is it a good idea, and accepting it.
I completely agree with you. This is the problem that the short-term political cycle that Australia is in, like the rest of the democratic world, and I certainly wouldn't be advocating we go away from a democratic society, but the issue is that we often lose the long-term thinking that's required to actually solve these serious problems. And I think, and what I'm loving about this conversation is how we've started off with some throwaway lines and some rhetoric, and we've moved into a serious debate about energy in the country. And that's what I'd love to see our leaders doing. We had 4 leaders debates, each followed a similar format. I mean, the different networks will argue they were different. They weren't. I would have loved to have seen debates around topics. One of the things that I'm certainly loving is the rise of, more homegrown, more home-produced media, like the show that we're all participating in tonight. And having our Australian politicians, I think, doing more long-format interviews, actually diving into issues. That won't solve the problem, but it's a great start. Actually unpacking, what are serious problems and looking at how we address them.
Just on that, Tully, and Julio mentioned something very important before about the leaders. Now, when you compare our leaders, when you compare our Prime Minister and the opposition leader, when you look at those debates, you compare that to a European nation, or you probably can't compare it to America, but if you compare it to another developed nation and look at the way that debate was handled, the terminology used, the thinking on the feet. I thought Albanese did. To me, it wasn't inspiring. It wasn't, wow, this guy is a bloke I want to vote for. And Dutton wasn't, not knowing the price of eggs, a dozen eggs, seriously. Oh my God. Well, what a shit opposition leader he's going to be. Leader he'd be if he won. Seriously, the leadership, there is none. Our young kids, our young teenagers are looking at inspiration. I didn't see any of that. I saw a bit of patronising going on as well. I think the average voter is no longer naive, I should use the term. And I think people are switched on about reading into people and what they're all about. And I think our leaders aren't demonstrating those attributes that we would want from a leader. And that's what's missing. Forget about the charisma, their knowledge. I could not believe the Prime Minister of a country wasn't able to think on his feet and go bang, bang, bang. He was stuttering. He wasn't sure what he was saying. He felt a bit anxious, I felt. He was a bit apprehensive even at the start. And that's not, when I compare that to an overseas nation that's got a quarter of our population, look at their debates, we're lacking.
And this is part of the problem, Oscar, that they keep going for is these gotcha moments, not knowing the price of eggs, these 7-second soundbite grabs that are going to get repeated on the radio. And I think that, we need to move our politics away from that. And, I would have loved to have seen themed debates at this election. I would have loved to have seen, we should have had the great energy debate, the great economic debate. Let's get them in the room and have them for 2 hours discuss nothing other than the cost of living and how they're going to address it. Let's discuss the energy price, but let's have a detailed conversation around energy, not just a really quick, well, I'm going to build nuclear and I'm going to put more solar panels up, and that's as far as we get, because we know none of those things are actually going to solve this problem. None of it's going to help. I think we want to drive electricity prices through the roof. Nuclear is going to do that. And I'm not anti-nuclear, by the way, but I don't think it's going to drive electricity prices down in Australia. I don't think it's the answer at all.
How's it going to drive them up?
Sorry?
How is it going to drive them up? Based on the Labor Party's suggestion that it's going to cost $600 billion to build.
Yeah, the infrastructure expenses alone, and there's a 30-year lead time to get the infrastructure online.
But we know they're wrong. 600 versus 120, there's a big difference.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm bringing up your point as well, and I hate to say it, but I'm agreeing with you. There is too much bullshit going on.
Yeah.
There is too much crap from both sides, and they're both as useless as each other, and I'm sick of them. I don't know, forgive me, because I can't gauge how old you are, but, mate, they can talk all they like. They've been talking about the fast rail link to the airport since the 70s, and I can remember that. Yeah. And they're still talking about it, and they've done nothing. And now, I won't say your government, but the Labor government are now going to put in a stupid rail link or an airport link that goes via sunshine. Give me a break.
Well, it is Tully's government. Tully's going to be the next one of the future prime ministers.
That's it.
Now we are at 98.9 Northwest FM, and we've got Paul's joined us, and we're coming into the second half of the show. And hang on, Paul's mute you, Paul. Can we mute Paul?
I got mute. No, here you go.
Yeah, 98.9 Northwest FM.
There you go.
Paul Martin, tech guy. I think we sorted out our tech issues. I'm just going to patch you.
I don't know whether
it's every Wednesday from 7 to 8 here on 98.9 Northwest FM. I think we're back. We're back.
Hey, hey, Milton.
We're back on. Sorry about that.
Milton, I have to agree with you, Tully. The thing is, I don't understand why we don't use benchmarks. I mean, there are so many countries that are going down this path, the nuclear path, and it's successful, and they are saving money, and utility bills are down. I don't understand why we're playing politics, and this is the problem with this country. Our members of parliament, our politicians are so geared up to protecting their empires that they forget the people that actually vote them in. And then when they get voted in, not all politicians, some of them, they actually forget the average person out there who put them in there in the first place. And I think that's happening with a lot of members of parliament, in particular the incumbents. But I've realised that it's no longer easy. You can't lie your way through things and through campaigns. And this campaign has certainly been, it's really shown the true faces of many, many candidates. I'm not talking about Monique Ryan. She's one of them, but the Teals haven't done themselves any favours this election.
And just to be clear, Oscar, I'm absolutely supportive of nuclear energy. I do believe it is the safest form of energy production on the face of the planet, and the data backs that up. I mean, there are a lot of benefits of nuclear. My line was I've got real doubts that I think that a current policy, if the effect is solely to bring down electricity prices, nuclear is not your answer just to solely bring that down. I absolutely think nuclear needs to be part of the national conversation around our energy mix. In or out, I don't know. I'm saying it should definitely be part of the conversation. I'm not an anti-nuclear campaigner at all. I am just saying that, and we see this around the world, how long it takes to bring these plants online. The fact of the matter is the capital required to do this, I've got real concerns about. And I've got real concerns about the changing face of the way the capital markets are moving globally. The fact of the matter is that the billions of dollars required, I would have serious doubts that we're going to be able to access that capital in 5 years, let alone 10 years, as shareholders are simply going away from funding these kind of energy production mixes. So where does that then leave it? That would leave a huge hole the government itself would have to fill. That means taxpayer dollars. We've seen firsthand. I mean, you're looking at a 30-year infrastructure build. We know now that things like the East-West Tunnel blowout, and that's a 2 or 3, maybe a 4-year build. So we're pricing infrastructure now into 30 years' time, and you're telling me the costs aren't going to blow out. So all for having a conversation about nuclear, but let's have a serious conversation about it. Let's not just have these, throwaway lines done on the back of a napkin. One expert said this, so we're running with it. Let's have a serious debate about Australia's energy future. And that needs to be tied to our immigration debate about what size Australia are we going to have? What infrastructure do we need to be building? What are our cities going to look like in the future? We need to have a national conversation.
We do. I agree with that, and I do sympathise with the attitude towards nuclear. That yes, we know it works and all the rest of it. The problem is that we're not looking at any. If you look at the politicians look at the moment, we actually have got no plan whatsoever to how we're going to reduce prices for the normal Australian person.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, we're getting rid of coal-fired power. With what? Replacing it with what? We haven't got the infrastructure to run solar panel or wind power. So we're pretty much on a standstill here where, yes, like you said, slogans are fantastic. And looking at all these other ventures are fantastic, but we're not seeing any capital gains on any of it at all. Or even what we do with our own mining. How are we supposed to get money from that? How we resource it properly? How do we get our taxes and revenues back correctly from overseas?
And the Australian public should have real questions about this. And
Right.
I haven't even heard it raised in the election. We talk about moving Australia's energy mix away from coal. The fact of the matter is we're still a huge exporter of coal. So if we're not burning the coal here to heat Australian homes, it's being burnt somewhere else. So we can't have it both ways. Like, we've got to have this conversation about it. And so many politicians on all sides are trying to hide from this. I'd love to see this issue brought forward and having a national discussion about it.
True.
Well, boys, I'm enjoying the discussion. Sorry, we've had technical issues here at Northwest FM, which is not a new thing to us. We need a bit of government support. We're hoping to get that through this election, of course. That's why we've got this show, to get a bit of election to get. What do you reckon, Oscar? More money into community radio? Can we start that in the major parties?
I think so, Mark. I mean, you think about the work you do in reaching, in particular, those residents and taxpayers that are listening to this, in particular in my city here at Moreland or Marybeck and Hume and Moonee Valley. There are so many municipalities, and I know you guys lack funding. I just can't believe the state or federal government. I mean, I know local government does try and do its bit, but I don't think it's a minuscule amount. And I think, if the federal, state government and local government funded your radio station at $50,000 a year, that would bring in some incredible speakers and the radio would really reach more listeners and get the message out. And that's what you're very, very good at doing. And 98.9 have been doing that for quite a while. And I do listen, and I know you've got some incredible journalists on there and people who are passionate about the community that are on there doing what you're doing tonight.
Fantastic, mate. Now, we are coming to our 7 in 7. So we want to get what the top 7 issues are for the election. Now, before we get to this segment, I really want to just go through and get the final comments, I suppose, from you all about this election before we move into the second part of the show, which is really identifying the top issues. So we're going to start with you, Milton Wild. What's your
Mate, sorry, just before you go there, how about we hear from you?
Hear from me?
Yeah, we'd like to hear what your policies are or what your position is and how far left you can actually go without falling over.
Okay, well, it's not about me tonight, mate. I'm really in for community. You know me, I'm a community man. And if one of these parties, where the Julio's party wants to support big brothers, big sisters with a big $1 million grant for mentoring, that could be my swing vote. But it's all about what is going to help young people out there, which party, and I'm not sure which party is going to help young people. I was hoping that Tully's party, Labor, might, but not sure. And not sure Mr. Dutton. I've spoken to Mr. Dutton. I'm not sure he's going to be helping as much either. But look, mate, let's start with you, Milton. What do you stand for? What's your sort of comment that you want to tell all the listeners about your party?
Well, it's got really nothing to do with my party. It's really got to do with just getting rid of the 2 incumbents because they're a uni party. It's just a revolving door. And I think...
No, but what do you stand for? I want to know what you stand for, mate. What do you stand for?
I'm in the middle of telling you. Tully's right in that the problem that we've got is this 3-year cycle where we just keep rotating between Labor and Liberal, Labor and Liberal, Labor and Liberal with a little bit of green shit thrown in there to just mix it up. It's not working. And there isn't enough time being spent on any planning, and they're all too concerned with getting re-elected. None of them, I reckon I could count, and Oscar, you could probably, you'd probably be in a similar position, I think, but I reckon I might be able to count on one hand the number of politicians across the board that I would give any credit to. Jared Rennick.
I agree.
The rest of them are just full of shit, and they're all just full of excuses, and they're in it for the money. And this immigration Ponzi scheme that they've got running is ridiculous. This idea of bringing immigrants in here, overrunning our country, and it's a self-serving Ponzi scheme, as I said, just designed to boost GDP while we're facing housing crises and hospital wait times and job insecurity. And they're going to keep doing it because these people keep voting for them. I mean, what was it? 200,000 immigrants came in the last was it 2 months? It's just
right. Look, thank you for that. I've got to get Tully in on this because I'm sure he's going to want to say something about what you're saying. This is not going to be too long a segment, Tully, but Just a quick response, given you representing the Labor Party.
I'm a member of the Labor Party. I'm not representing them tonight, Mark. I'm just representing myself. I mean, I would say that, sure, I think housing is a significant issue at this election. I don't think a reduction in immigration at all is the solution to the housing crisis. I personally believe that is just simply a throwaway line. It's easy to say. It resonates with some voters. I don't think there's any fact behind it whatsoever, other than it changes votes. I certainly don't think that, the fact of the matter is I think Australia is underpopulated, and we've got significant skills shortages. I mean, there's so many positions out there that we cannot fill, and cutting immigration will hurt this country. It will drive this country's economy into the ground. Cutting immigration would be an absolute disaster. I'm happy to have conversations around the immigration mix, bringing in more skilled immigrants. But the fact of the matter is we need a bigger nation. I think Peter Costello said it best: one for mum, one for dad, and one for the country. The fact of the matter is Australians aren't having one for mum, one for dad, and one for the country. Our birth rate is the lowest it's ever been. Australians are not having enough children. We cannot keep up with the growth. Our population stats are showing an incredibly aging population. Who is going to support them?
Okay, Tully, mate, you're doing well there, mate. We've got to get through this segment, so I want to get to the top 7 in 7. I'm going to get Julio to introduce that segment, and part of the top 7 is that you're all going to pick one issue, and there's going to be 5 of us here. We've got Paul. We'll bring Paul back in, and that will get a 6, and then hopefully we can work out a 7th one between us all. But Julio, what's your response to tonight? What would you like to say? Just a couple of minutes.
Well, at the moment, I'm quite like this conversation because we're actually all open about what's going on. We believe roughly about the same thing, and we're actually coming to disagreement on very small items to a bigger picture, and that is the big picture of how can we solve solutionary big issues with logistics, economic growth, immigration, education. We're putting all those on the table instead of actually pulling ourselves apart and having no, you can't do that. We're actually listening to each other, which is the fantastic thing forward.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Julio. All right, mate. Want to do the introduction to the 7 in 7 segment, which is our final segment of the night. Thanks very much for that little intro to the segment. Okay, Oscar, we're going to start with you, and we'll go around the room. We're going to bring Paul back, and he's got his we actually might give Paul 2 spots about his 2 issues, so that will take us to the top 7. But why don't we start with you, Oscar? What's your number 1 issue for the election?
Number 1 for me is definitely cost of living. The inflation and the fuel and rental costs and grocery costs. So it's, for me, housing affordability is important too, but the number 1 thing I think that's hurting people right now would have to be cost of living.
Okay. Milton, what's your number 1 issue? Oh, it's your one. What's your number 1 issue for this election, Milton?
Well, I guess you're talking at a federal level or at a state level?
A federal level, because we've got a federal election coming up on Saturday.
Well, we're in the middle of it. In that case, it's cost of living and...
No, you can't. Oscar's got that one. You've got to come up with another issue. We're talking about the top 7 issues.
Migration.
Okay. Big issue there.
And our national debt.
No, you only have one, mate. I only have one. And migration is... Your issue with migration is too much or not enough?
Way too much. I disagree with Tully, but I disagree only with his logic, I guess, and that is that, yes, we need skilled migration, but the only reason we need skilled migration is because the Labor government successively, both governments, but the Labor government to a large degree have destroyed any infrastructure and production that we've ever had in this country. They've shut everything down. In Victoria, we've got no timber industry, so we import our timber from China. Just ridiculous.
Okay, we're talking. We've got that issue. Migration is your number one issue. If you're listening and you've got an issue, make sure you put it in the chat what your number one issue is for this election. We've got cost of living. We've got migration. Julio, what's your number one issue that hasn't been taken already?
Energy security. We need to actually start looking at our coal mines, everything else, and actually learning how to tax them correctly, so it actually becomes not a burden on us, but more of a real incentive for making a profit and some sort of royalties against our systems as what it is at the moment. I don't think we earn quite even enough to what we actually should be for those in royalties for what we actually produce for the rest of the world.
Okay, so we've got energy, migration, cost of living. Tully Smith, what's your big issue?
Look, I think like everyone, you could ask all seven of us, and we're all going to say cost of living. It is the most important issue at this election. Second to that, though, for me would be housing. And I do just want to say, actually, Milton, I agree. You won't find a bigger fan of forestry workers than me. What we've done to the timber industry in this country is a disgrace. We need a strong timber industry. There's no reason why we shouldn't have one.
Okay, so housing's in our top seven. We might. Paul's going to come back and read all these out in a second. But Oscar, back to you again, mate. What's another issue for you?
Look, I think one of the most serious issues is definitely crime and community safety. I think there are concerns about youth crime, and I know they're still coming into the country, but drugs are ruining our kids. They're ruining societies. They're ruining communities. And
absolutely
causing mental health issues, and there's a crisis in that area as well.
Good idea.
And we can't forget our regional communities with that, Oscar. It's ruining our regional communities.
All right, so we'll put crime and drugs in the one, Oscar. So we've got housing, we've got migration, we've got cost of living, we've got crime and drugs, and we've got energy. Milton, why don't you give us another one, mate?
I guess the national debt, and one of the policies that Clive's always had, which I love dearly, is a 15% licence fee on all iron ore exports. Now that's coming from someone that makes a lot of his money out of iron ore, but if we apply a 15% licence fee on iron ore exports, clearly China's going to be paying a lot more of our debt than we are. It just makes sense because all of our resources, we're shipping them overseas, and we're getting stuff all for it. Clive's making a shitload out of it. Gina Reinhardt's making a lot out of it. What's his name? Forrest? He's making a fortune out of it. They've all made millions out of it, but the country's getting nothing from it.
All right, so national debt.
And then the other thing at a state level is we need to get rid of the bloody unions in Victoria.
Hang on, anyway, you've already given two, so we're up to about six. I'm going to get Paul to come on. Julio, have you got our last issue?
To me, true to my heart, defence. Our defence is at the moment at its lowest point that we could actually have a defence force at. So, one, not only is having not the right equipment, but also not having any company in Australia be able to produce anything for our defence force, which is not just a shame, but a security risk.
All right, because I can't count, I'm going to get Tully to give the number 8, and I'm going to head over to Paul to read out the top 7 or 8 from there. You got one more for us, Tully?
Yeah, look, I think it'd be remiss not to mention healthcare.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well done. So let me just recap that, guys. Here is the election special 25, 98.9 August of Great. Hey, now listen. So cost of living, number 1. Migration, number 2. Energy security, number 3. I think the great man. Thanks, Julio. You put that up there. Housing, number 4. So I think that was from who put up housing? I think it was a councillor.
I said crime and community safety. But anyway.
Yep, crime, safety, and drugs, all that sort of thing. And we've obviously talked about defence, but I put in. Sorry to put my hand up here. I put in tax the corporations, the big guns. You know, take some taxes. It's about time we take a stance, the politicians, the government, and then start taxing. And I heard a figure today which blew my mind. It was something like $550 billion potentially. That could be put better into the welfare of young people. You know, I heard over the weekend, and I'm going to say this. I wasn't going to say it. That the pension, like housing such a challenge out there, that 70, 80-year-olds who have put their hand up to get it, can't get a house, can't get a place to live, and they're just, this is our parents. This is someone's grandparents, someone's parents who are struggling, who don't have, but who haven't got that money, and they're begging for housing. This is wrong. And then there's all these houses that are available across the country, empty because people have got multiple houses. Look, good luck if you've got multiple properties. But how about helping some of our elderly, helping the people? There's a lot of money out there, distributed properly. So anyway, I put tax the big guys, and then number 7, fair go here in Australia, guys. Stop ripping us off, and let's all enjoy living in Australia and the lucky country. My father came out in 1956, was handed a little van. He started selling King G, workwear to farms in Casterton, Victoria. This is how he started. He built an empire in fashion, years on. And when I say an empire, he opened up, 7 stores. He worked his ass off and paid taxes. You know what I mean? But why do we need to? We're the lucky country. You know what I mean? We are certainly the lucky country, but it doesn't seem like it now. We're just getting ripped left, right, and centre. So anyway, there's the election issues. We've got 4 minutes left. I think we've got Marcus. Are you back on there? Any last words, guys? Councillor.
I think it's good to say that.
Sorry, Tully.
I was going to say, good to say, Paul, that your story, like so many others, is an immigration story, and a really great one. Immigrants built this nation, and hopefully will continue to do so for a long time. I will say, though, that this conversation has been great, and a forum to come together and actually flesh out some of the issues. I look forward to joining back after the election. We can do a bit. I think we should get back together and do a bit of a recap. I think that'd be great. But it just shows why vehicles like community radio are just so fundamentally important, because we've all said tonight how important these conversations are, and look where we're doing it, community radio, and this is why we always need more funding for community radio. But I think one issue that we didn't pick up on, and underlying all of this, is trust. We've all spoken about the levels of politicians, and I can wax lyrically for hours about all the major parties chasing good people out and actually not promoting talent rather than the opposite. And I think we can talk about trust at this election. I'm really fortunate that where I live, Tim Watts is my federal MP, and that Raf Cicconi's number 1 on the Senate ticket in Victoria. Just 2 really great people. So voting 1 at this election is going to be actually really easy for me, but I know for a lot of others it isn't. I think trust and that trust deficit in Australian politics is something we're going to need to address, but it's through conversations like this that we do it. So congratulations, guys. It's been a pleasure to join you tonight.
Just thanks. Hey, Paul.
Yes, Councillor.
He asked me the question and you guys interrupted. Australians are demanding, I wrote this just now, Australians are demanding leadership and a commitment to working for a fairer and stronger Australia is what I've written here, or for Australians. We need real change, but we need leaders that are prepared to I guess, listen, but more importantly, connect with Australians. And they haven't done that. And we need vision. We need our politicians to stand by their convictions and have the courage to actually act and get things done, because we spend a lot of time talking is cheap. There's no action. People want real action. They want real change. Exactly. And unfortunately, that hasn't been happening for quite a long time.
Yes,
but thank you for the opportunity tonight.
You're welcome, Oscar. Well done. Milton, go. Okay, you got 30 seconds.
Where did you say you were based, Tully?
I'm in Jellybrand, so in the west.
Oh yeah, Jellybrand. Yeah.
We need to get you out on a Saturday morning so Mark can have some support in our walks. I think you're right. This is a great forum, and it's great to be able to express some different views. And I think by talking like this in an open fashion, it's the only way we're actually going to get. Well, it's a starting point. It's a starting point, but we need to be able to debate this. We need to be able to discuss this openly. I probably think that there's too much of a bias towards Victoria here. We've got crime we've got to get rid of, and we've got unions we've got to get rid of. And aside from that, that's a starting point, because Victoria's the head of the rotting fish, and we've got to stop that, because all the crap that's going out into Australia is coming out of here, and we need to stop it. And I'm sorry, it's the Labor Party's relationship with the unions that's causing a lot of the problem. And that's not saying the Liberal Party aren't just as corrupt and just as bent. I reckon they're all the same as each other. We need some more independence in there.
Well, boys, it's been a great show. We're coming to the end of it. We've got 30 seconds to go, but thank you very much for coming in. It's fantastic to be there. And Julio, over to you, mate.
Well
For
done.
me, okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for joining in. It's been really good to actually nut the whole thing, a lot of stuff out. To me, two things. One, we need people like our old-fashioned John Howard and also Bob Hawke. They were people that actually would bring out problems and be true politicians. We don't have those names anymore. We really need to concentrate and be thoughtful about how we elect people and what we expect from people. And go back to those people, watch those videos, see how those guys used to communicate with each other, even though they were tough, but they knew how to communicate properly to Australians.
Yep.
And I agree with Tully. I concur that after this, I think we need to have another meeting, maybe after the result on Saturday night next week or whenever, to talk about the aftermath of the election.
Oh, shit.
All right, so we're going to come. Are we going to come back and do this again? Are we, boys?
Yep.
Sounds
Absolutely.
good. Yep.
All right, okay, we're locked in. We'll have a post-match look at it. Can we just quickly talk about the weekend's footy? What hope has the Bombers got on Thursday night, tomorrow night?
Every chance, mate. You never never tip against the Bombers, mate.
11 points. 11 points. The Bombers will win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Julio, you going for the Bombers?
We didn't disgrace ourselves last weekend. We did okay.
No, yeah, that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, great to see we're all on Bombers. And Milton, why don't you have the final word, mate, with that lovely hat of yours? What's your final word?
Get out there and vote the major parties out and vote the minor parties. That's
Yep.
what we can do. Shake them. We've got to
All
shake their cake.
Is any bad you guys could send a few more texts out, Milton?
Yeah, I think we could, but I asked them specifically to send some out to you, and I'm hoping they did.
All right. Okay, Julio, wind us up, mate. Press the button, and good to see you guys.
Yes. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
mate.
Thank you,
Nice
gentlemen.
to meet you, Tully. Catch